Just bringing everybody back in from breakout rooms. Woo! And if you click on speaker view, I'll be the only one you see because I'm the only one who can be heard. I've muted you all, not to be mean, but just to get things organized. And I'm hoping that we've got most people in. I've had a few people that couldn't get in. Now I've got the link. So hopefully we've got everything sorted. I'll just do a little check of a multitask, believe it or not. Multitasking, checking that, checking LinkedIn. Seems like we are reasonably okay. And right, so what's your main? Okay, so this is quite cool. So now I've got 6 screens. I'm going to go through, and while we're waiting for the last few people to come out of breakout rooms, announce who we've got. So we've got Stanley Henry and Claire Wallace. We've got Martin Levy, Amy Scott. And it's kind of sad because I can read all your names now, so there's no fun. I can't get away from seeing your name. David Rouse, Vishal Patel, Paul Bakor, Helen Shorthouse, Aidan Keneally, who's speaking at our April 23rd event, Shemaine Bonhomme, Justin Tomlinson, one of our speakers, Sarah Laurie from Take a Breath, one of our speakers. We're talking about wellness, not about technology. I've been taking a few breaths today. How are we going? We've got 88 people in here now. Andrew Seardon, Tracy Hemingway, who's just got the link and just got on. Lude Miller, who I met, who's just come back from Brazil, and Machu Picchu. I pronounce it wrong every time, but we'll come back to that later. Nick Faro, who had a really cool image of looked very Sebastian Chabal, but now he's not looking very Sebastian Chabal. Who have we got there? Abigail Ernst, Arpit, Adam Mercer, John Knight, Paul Wilson, Hema Patel, enjoying that lovely Cabernet Sauvignon. Katie Grant. Wow, everyone's flicking in. Okay, so we're going to go into our meeting room again with a breakout room. So I'll put you into a breakout room of 4 people. And the idea is that you can connect, share, exchange stories, have a bit of a chat. But I won't wait 10 minutes this time. I'll only be waiting 5. I'll be pulling you out. So when you see that invite to come out, if you can just thanks very much and jump out, because otherwise we wait 60 seconds for you to come out. So for everybody, we'll just do it all at the same time as soon as. All right, breakout rooms. Let's go recreate. What have we got? We've got 90, 100. So let's go 25. Boom. And there we go. So I've opened the rooms. And I might come and pop into the odd room as well. So we'll see you in there. Have fun. Say hello. Look after your fellow humans. Take care. And welcome to AFQY. Boom, 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 boom. All right. So we're down to how many participants? So I'm going to go screen share. Oh, Kyle Gregg's just got in there. So I will go unmute all, and I'll leave everybody in here off unmute. Oh, here's Mike, Scott. So what I'm just going to do is pop into a couple of breakout rooms, and you can be the breakout room here. So you're the main room. So Mike, Scott, I'll leave you to look after everybody. Helen, you're still here. I thought you might have been in a breakout room. Did you not get it?
I fell off. I've fallen off twice and had to come back in again, so I don't quite know what's going on, but you haven't got rid of me. I'll go where you want me to go.
I'm not trying to get rid of you. All right. So I'm going to go and jump into a room, and then I can pop back out. Will only be a couple of minutes.
My little bubble. So I think that's a word that we'll be happy to see the end of, bubble.
Hello.
Okay.
I just joined your bubble.
How you doing?
Good. I'm just doing a quick jump around the rooms, see how it's
I'm
going.
loving this. This is looking good.
I know. I haven't shaved since I shaved on the weekend, but it's I was going. What is it? I was going for Mark Strawn. Who is it? What's that guy? Mark Strawn, Anthony Strawn, the actor. He's in all the.
I'm not sure which one. It might be neither.
Yeah, going for the Mark Strawn look. Anyway, I'm going to see how I get out of here and into the next breakout room. I'll leave you to it. See you in a few minutes. I'm back and look, here's Trasky. Mr.
What have
Green.
you done to yourself, mate? You look completely different.
I know. So I'm 100 kgs now. When I was 59, I got these beautiful dimples here and this nice little dimple there. They used to call me the Russian. now they're trying to squeeze out through the fat, but it's not quite happening. And
there you go. Oh, there's.
Nice one, Kyle.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's cold where I am. I'm not in Auckland.
Oh,
I'm in there you go.
done it.
Robots, roll out. You're in Dunedin, mate. That's my hometown. It's tropical.
I know.
It's friendly. It's best place in the world.
Hang
Hey,
on.
Roy, how's it going? Okay, so we're getting up to a minute. I'm going to pull everybody back out of the breakout rooms. So at the moment, we're going into breakout rooms of 3 to 4 and then back out. So you get to meet some of the people that are here. So I'll just go and pop.
So you guys sound like you know each other quite well. This is my first one. Never managed to make it into the Christchurch meetup. So now I'm here virtually.
Ah.
That's
That's
what
good.
we like about it. You can come when you can. You come
Yeah.
when you can't.
Well, you only just
Great.
made it to Christchurch, and then I went overseas for a year or so. So
Yeah.
it's good to see you, Ryan.
Don't feel left out, Helen. I know Ryan reasonably well, but most of the other people I'm meeting.
Dave Rouse.
Oh, wow.
Hello,
Look
Dave.
at that.
A few
Everyone's
more come in.
popping back.
Wow, this is a good view.
Yeah. So as long as we're all good kids, I'll just leave it off mute. And if you want to jump in and say g'day, call out, shout out, no worries. If it gets a bit unruly and too noisy, I'll just chuck it back on mute. But we're just waiting to bring everybody out. So
Is everyone still
wanna
actually working, but remote?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, still working at.
Not me. I've
5:45
just
on
come back from
Thursday.
Europe because of coronavirus. So
Ooh.
Ooh.
I have to actually get a
I haven't
cameo
got
from you
it.
later on.
Just in
Don't
time.
worry.
I've done my.
Just in time.
There we go. Oh, look,
Survived
Kevin.
Oh, yeah, he's my buddy. Is there any birthdays? Can we sing anyone happy birthday?
Back in the room.
Can we sing anyone happy birthday? That's quite a
Not
good
without
idea.
the cake.
Oh, what about I don't know if you can sing sing wedding songs, but Ryan Ingram, who's our sponsor and speaker, would have been on his honeymoon right now, but alas, COVID-19 curtailed that. So we could all go. Dun, 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 dun. So Andrew
That's
McNaughton,
why he's
Hassan,
not on
Rod
the
Snodgrass, add your cameras so you're here. I'm just flicking through the screens. We're up to 6 screens, 95, and I'm just going to send everybody back into the next breakout room just before we go. So this is A Few Quiet Yarns. I'm Ryan Ashton, or Ryan Malone, your host. It's awesome to have you here. We'll kick off at 6 o'clock officially, but before then you get to, I was almost going to say cross-pollinate, but with COVID-19, that might not be the best way to reference it. We're going to get you to talk to each other and meet in little groups or breakout rooms of 3 to 4. So before I talk too much more, I'm going to go and do that now, and you'll be pulled out or invited out in 5 minutes. And I ask you politely if you can jump back as quick as possible. And what are we up to now? Let's go 25, recreate, open. So take the invite and find out who's in your room. Say hello, have fun, enjoy meeting the person, not the suit. Should have told you that a long time ago, but I think you all probably heard it, hopefully. And don't ask what someone does until the third question. Just get to know them as a person. And we will see you in about 5 minutes, and I'll stay in the main room.
Hey, Carl.
Hey, Steve. How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Good, thanks. Hey, I'll catch up with you soon. I'm not sure if we'll be talking to each other after I join this breakout room, but we'll have a wee
You'll
chat
get
soon.
pulled back. You'll come back.
Oh, good one.
Okay.
Hey, good stuff, Ryan.
Cheers, brother. So we've got Andrew, Kirsty, and New. New, do you have a camera? Do you have a name? I don't know if I can do all sorts of things here. Andrew, hang on, unmute all. There we go. So we've got Andrew Hillstead. Who else we got? So welcome to the main room of A Few Quiet Yarns. The other 100 people that we're here for are all in the breakout room right now. So you're stuck with me, Ryan Ashton, Ryan the Lion, your host. Is that you, Anthony? Hang on, it is too. I can see your name. I keep forgetting to look at the name. I've got to keep on clicking unmute all because the settings are you can't share your screen. So sadly, I don't get any Zoom porn and make mute you so that I can keep you all under control. But now we're in the main room and there's about 100 people that are out into breakout rooms. So
I love how you look out like this.
Hey?
I love how you look out saying that they're all out in those breakout rooms.
Oh, talking about out, my lighting rig is starting to... There we go. So in true Kiwi fashion, I've got a few lights strapped up, but the heat of them is making them fall down.
Where are you right now, Ryan? Are you in like your office or at home?
Yeah, I'm in my office. Hang on, let's detach this and show you what we've got going on here. So this is the AFQY media wall. There's the bookshelf.
I like it.
There's the whiteboard, and here's outside. And there's
nice.
There's the lamps right there, and the two spotlights up the top. So she's a real Hollywood setup. Bit of number 8 wire, a lot of duct tape, and she'll be right.
Love it, man. Hey, nice to be here, by the way. Thanks for inviting me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, no worries. No worries.
Great opportunity to meet people, man. Like, I was in a couple of the breakout rooms before, but I rejoined with. I downloaded the Zoom app before I was just from my browser. But yeah, it was nice chatting with people, man. Nice way to unwind on like a Thursday evening, especially before the long holiday.
Cheers to that.
Cheers, Ron.
Now here's a secret that you all need to understand and learn. Spates is from Dunedin, and it used to be just the one beer, and now you can get Spates just about any flavour you want. And back in the good old days, anyone who wasn't from Otago would say, drink Spates to lose your mates. And we would say, and let me give it, special piss enjoyed in great hotels throughout the South Island. We don't want you to have our Spates. We'll keep it down in Otago, but there we go. So we're now into 5:51. I'm going to go and pull everyone back out of breakout room, and we'll see how many there are. Take 60 seconds for them to get forced back in the room. But what we'll do is get one more breakout room probably before the official start at 6 o'clock.
Sounds good.
Here we go again. Boom, 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 as the people come back into the main room. Hope you all had fun. Hope it was good.
Amazing.
Andrew.
That was awesome.
Hang on, let's unmute all. Let's keep it fun, relaxed, AFQY. So we've got 3 pages to 38. And just remember to put your cameras on so that we can actually see you. That's the whole friendly part of this. Human connection. If you do have kids in the background, I'll ask you to mute yourself so I don't have to mute everybody. Here we go, on to the next page. The threesome.
Oh, hello.
Hola, ¿qué tal?
Lisa Cooley. Ah, Lorraine. So I had to look up, I got this ticket come through for Law Mintz. So I went to LinkedIn, as I always do, to look up a new name and couldn't find a Law Mintz anywhere. So I then went to Google and couldn't find a Law Mintz, but found all these Mintz laws. And I'm not quite sure how I worked it out, but I found it that Law Mintz is Lorraine Mintz. So great to have you along. Well, we've got 7 pages of people, so now we're up to, see, it only says 100. There's meant to be a lot more than
Ryan,
that.
can
So I'm
everybody see you?
just wondering. Hey?
Can everybody see you?
Yeah, I can see Ryan.
So in our window, can everybody see each other?
Yeah.
Not everyone.
Not 100.
Hi, Daniel.
No, but can we? I can see you.
I can see you.
But
When
can
you
we see
speak-
each other, but everybody can see Ryan? Is it how
No. So let me explain. Hang on. First, I will mute all. So now, the way it works is the person who's speaking becomes the prominent screen. So first of all, there's two views. One is speaker view, where there's one big square and probably about 6 across the top. Or you press gallery view, and that's when you get the whole screen. And depending on how big your screen is, will be how many you can actually see. So when I take it off mute all, and whenever someone talks, you will get the little yellow box around, your screen icon, and you'll be the person speaking. So before Daniel, you were speaking, everyone could see you. And then as Carolyn said hi, they saw her, and so on and so forth. So hang on, we will unmute everybody. Go into gallery view.
To the bigger screen.
But the people who aren't speaking, I can see you. But,
Yes. So Daniel, when you're in gallery view, you can see a selection of people. So I've got 7 screens of people that I can flick through. But the person who's prominent, that will be recorded. Well, actually, I'm recording this, so it's whatever I pick, which is right now the gallery view. But if you were to speak, then you would be the prominent screen. So why don't we get a quick hello from Rod Snodgrass, who was one of our speakers at the last event. I'm just going to test out spotlighting video. Can anyone see him now? Hey, Rod.
Yeah.
Hey, Rod.
Hi.
Hey, Rod.
Pretty background thing.
Where are you?
Hello, Rod.
Hang on. Wait, Rod, you haven't unmuted yourself.
Wait 1 moment.
Oh, hang on.
There you go.
That's because I hadn't unmuted you all. Now back to you, Rod.
That's right. It's Gorobi in Cappadocia in Turkey.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh.
In Gaza.
Did you do a hot air ballooning then?
So, hang on, people.
Sure
Rod's.
did. We sure did. We can do that next.
Okay, there we go. All right. So, now we've got the handle on how this works.
Oh, I want to be able to do that.
Hang on.
Everyone can do that.
You can all do it.
How do we do that?
Unless your computer can't handle it.
And then do it.
Or if you're in through the web client, you can't do it.
So, except for my AFQY logo, I'm sitting in the Millennium Falcon right now with Han Solo, Chewie. But it's a bit hard. You need
I can only see Rod at the moment, Ryan. I can't see you.
Oh, that's because of spotlighted Rod. So,
So Ryan, I think you should have a rule that you can only have a background if you've been there.
oh, okay. That would be
in
interesting.
The past 2 weeks. In the past
Still
2
good.
weeks.
in the past 2 weeks. Okay. So what we're going to do is do our last breakout room before we kick off officially 6 o'clock. So as you go in, again, this is the opportunity to meet the person. And AFQY is all about meeting the person, not the suit. So try not to ask what someone does for a job until the 3rd question. In fact, they probably won't even come up. But try to make those personal connections through discussions. You might be interested in ballet, you might be rugby, you could be working on some brand new concept, you might be drinking the most amazing craft beer. I'll leave you to find that out as we go into the next breakout rooms. And see you all soon. Come back in 5. So who have we still got in here? Let's unmute you all in the main room. Julia Dole, Diane, Kirsty, someone called DN. So if you can turn your cameras on and unmute yourself. I've pressed unmute a couple of times. Oh, I see. So let's see. Is anybody there? So let's give them ask to start video, ask to start video, ask to start video. One unassigned. Oh, look. There we go. AJ.
How are you, mate? You good?
I'm good, thanks.
Good to see you.
Yeah. So we've got a few more people in here that are on mute, and maybe they have gone to.
Yeah, I got joined in with Halima, who I can see on the little ribbon there now, but was on mute and then seemed to leave the chat room. So it was just me on my own. So I played around with some backgrounds, and now I'm back here.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'd do the same. Just checking. Just doing a quick check of everything before.
Hey, Rod and I, just while you're there, Rod and I were in a chat room to begin with, and we were just inquiring about our little fund we created for the Mankini. Perhaps you could comment on that later, please. That'd be much appreciated. I won't ask the question. I'll just leave it up to you, mate.
Yeah, no, well, we can cover that. So
you.
we're still missing $400 for the final.
No, you said 500 altogether. I put 250 in. Rod put 100. So already your maths is wrong. Just front up with the Mankini.
Oh, okay. I think I probably should, shouldn't I?
Totally.
Okay. So as people are popping in, this is the main room. Hey, Glenn, Laurel, I'll unmute you all so you can speak. Pablo, the man that we have never met and can been trying for how long? I don't know. I must be useless. But this is the main room, and everybody else is in breakout rooms, or the last breakout room before I pull them back out in a second. So at the moment, I'm just going to collect my thoughts, get ready to rock and roll, and let you.
How's it going, Ryan?
Chit chat. Good. I'm just got to check a few things, so I'll let you
We'll leave you to it.
Introduce yourselves.
I'm actually just going mute to put my off video to put my dinner on. I'll be back when you come back into breakout rooms. From breakout rooms.
How do you guys? Hi everyone. How do you guys change your background? Or actually, are you leaving there?
No. So at the stop video button, there's a little arrow. If you click on it and choose virtual background.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Nice.
Yeah. So I think we are probably pretty good to go. I might get everyone back in here in a second, and we will crack on. Right. So. Oh, there's Stuart and Kiri. Oops.
Hiya.
How you doing, man?
Pretty good.
Thanks for having a shave, mate. I appreciate it. We kind of don't look like each other so much now.
Well, you can always put on your there's.
I can put on a multitude of Star Wars helmets, mate. It will be good. Here's Stanley.
There we go. When we first met, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
That's good. I like that.
Good one, Lion.
Right. So I've just muted you all, and we're about to kick off officially and formally. So I've got myself onto speaker view. This is all being recorded, and we'll pop it up like we did with the first one. It's so great to have you all here. Welcome to A Few Quiet Yarns, or AFQY. I'm Ryan Ashton, your host, Ryan the Lion. AFQY has been running for 12 and a half years as an in-person event, and of course with COVID-19 lockdown, we're all in isolation, and we are using technology to meet and communicate. So with today, we're going, as you've already been going through the breakout rooms and getting to meet people, the idea of a few quiet yarns is to meet the person, not the suit. And the thinking behind that is so that we can do better business faster. Because when we have a relationship that is built on trust, what is trust? That is knowing who that person is and getting to understand them in a more personal sense, so that you have those connections. And that's why we have one rule, which is don't ask what a person does until the third question, which can be really hard. The joke is ask about the kids, the cat and the dog. But of course, you could talk about anything, and COVID-19 is probably the starting point, because we have never been in this situation before. In fact, I talk about it most regularly like we are living out a movie, and we don't want to have the bad ending, so we've all got to be responsible to ensure a good ending. But that's probably enough from me from what I wanted to share, because I wanted to get the speakers involved as soon as possible and get you listening to our speakers and getting the insights. So what I have positioned with each of our speakers is that we have a 5-minute high impact perspective. That can go on a little bit because we're longer than 5 minutes, because we are pretty relaxed. And the first person that I'd like to introduce, who's just been unmuted, but I'll now spotlight her video, is Nisha Clark. So you'll still hear from me until I mute myself. But welcome, Nisha Clark. It is so cool to have you here. I would love to tell the story of how we met, and probably should now that I've said that. But Nisha, I had no idea who Nisha was, and she turned up to the No Woman, No Man AFQY, and it's been a hilarious ride ever since. A great relationship, great fun. She's a really cool person. We did a yarn with a while ago, so I got to discover that she started out her career in technology as an electrical engineer for telecom back in the days of dial phones. Some of you may not be old enough to have used one, but for those of you like myself that grew up with them, you would dial and go. And of course, Nisha got invited to be on the first IT project for telecom, which is now known as Spark. And they did it in an agile way back then, back when agile wasn't a thing, didn't really exist. But that's led through a range of roles to the point where now Nisha is the CIO of Downer NZ, and that is a role with a substantial workforce that's affected by COVID-19. Lots being done in the background by Nisha, but that's enough from me. So I'll mute myself and hand over to Nisha, and you can jump in there. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
You're welcome. Thanks, Ryan. I'm a little bit nervous, but that's okay, because after about 3 quarters of bottled wine, who knows what I'm going to say. So apologies up front, team. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in and listening. This is my first speaking assignment over the way, so bear with me. I took some notes just so that I didn't track, because I can go off in a bit of order. Ryan's introduced a little bit about me. I can add that I started at the post office in 1984. So for those of you who are really good at maths, you'd know I started when I was about 11, because I was one of those gifted children, and it all went uphill from there. From there, I had an amazing career, as Ryan was saying, about some really incredible organisations. I worked for Tower. I did a stint in insurance. I did some a stint in health, but my background is telecommunications, and it is my passion. Funnily enough, I end up in Downer, where it's just crazy mental, everybody and everything. So it's actually feeding my adrenaline buzz quite well. When Ryan and I were talking over the phone a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about COVID-19, and I quoted, it's just these times when you're in a situation, as we are all, that it's all about relationships. It's the only thing that really matters. And actually, thanks, Ryan, you stole my whole thunder and everything I was going to say just done in the intro, but that's all good. Won't hold it against you. And I guess the other thing that he said was, in these times, you need to see people's true colours. So it's whether somebody is actually in the relationship with you, or whether it's not really how they first perceived it to be. So me personally, I've always believed that relationships are pivotal to everything we do. It's a thing that drives our family values, our friends, the way we hang out with them. And also it's about the people that we end up spending the most of our time with. I try to reiterate to people, it's guys, it's our colleagues, it's our vendors, it's the plethora of people that are doing in our work life. We actually spend a lot of time with them, actually, when you did the calculation, more than our family. So for me personally, it's about building relationships, establishing, not driven by hierarchy. I actually have been fascinated in the last few months learning how people only respond to somebody because of a title. Actually, I'm not the CIO of Downer, I'm the head of technology. Who cares? I do the same job. But I try not to make it about status. It's about being a part of a team. It's like a team is, whether it's a team delivering a project, whether it's a team delivering an outcome, you're still part of a team or an entity or an ecosystem. So it's just being a part of it and having any one person being the lead. You'll find me the person who wears their heart on the sleeve. So when I'm in a team environment, everyone knows how I feel. I can't hide it. It's just natural. But then that's about vulnerability, and that's how you create the relationship. I am there to support people. So when I'm with the group of people that I'm working with, I'm there to support. I'll do everything it takes to try and achieve the outcome and make them successful. I am the person that calls out bad behaviour. It's just who I am. And I am the person that will hold you account to a promise that you made. Yes, I'm the little person on the shoulder going, you didn't say that, you said this. So I try to be true in all those sense to make sure relationships. And some people like it, some people don't, but I still think that honesty and integrity is what makes a relationship. I build a personal connection. I think that you only do that by understanding the person. And once again, thanks, Ryan, you stole my thunder. I was going to talk about AFQY and how amazing it is that the rule is don't worry about the heck they do. Learn about the person and what's behind the person, what drives them, what motivates them, what are they about, which is really, really important. So for me, this has really hit home over the last 3 weeks. Monday, the 23rd of March, I was trying to figure out what date it was. We had been, as all technology companies are doing, talking about working from home and how we're going to get everyone connected. And all of a sudden it was like, no time to plan anymore. You've got to do it because you're all got to work from home and you're no longer in the office. So that pretty much changed everything that we were doing. Without asking, I didn't even have to worry. My team had picked up everything. They were off in all angles of the office trying to sort shit out, stuff out. Is shit okay on the call? A little bit? Fine? No shit?
Yep. No, you can
okay.
say anything.
Okay, good. Thank you. Well, no, I'll say everything that I would come out of my mouth. Remember, I do come from South Auckland. They rallied around and they really took hold of what they needed to do to support the business. Just so I can put it in perspective, the size of the problem and the reason why relationships were so important. When I joined Downer, what I found was it was an organisation that was about fixed desks. You have a PC, a screen, you have a telephone. It was about paper galore, paper everywhere. And we have a contact centre that can't be mobilised because the technology is so legacy and crappy that, and as a person who's leading technology, I was highly embarrassed, but there was nothing we could do. So we had to come up with a plethora, and the other thing was we could only do 800 remote connections because of the capability and the technology that we had. So we were pretty much in shit street, so to speak. Fixed desk means the desktop, there is no laptop. It means the list of things that people needed to be able to work from home was massive. And now you're talking about thousands of people, not just hundreds. But because the leadership team I have, they just came together. We're a new leadership team, which makes it even more interesting. We're since about the end of last year, and our last member joined in January. But as part of what we were saying earlier, the key thing for us was about building early on around January, February, March. We got to know each other on a personal level because that's the only way you can build that relationship and that trust. And we did a lot of work in that team building to try and get to know each other. And a number of them are on the call, so I was hoping they weren't going to call me out and call me a liar. No, just joking. Because I can see you, Nathan, on my screen. But we took the time out to understand and learn each other's weaknesses and strengths And I guess that's how, and my thinking is when you have a team, it's a family. I have a home family, my ohana, I have a work family, and they're equally important. And building that collaboration, that trust, and knowing each other helps us through the most difficult times. So we know we have each other's back. We don't try and throw each other under the bus, which I've seen in my career so many times and so horribly. We don't get precious if somebody wants to do somebody else's job because they need to take care of something, they just do it. There's no walking on eggshells. And what we've achieved has been mammoth. We smashed it out of the park, is how I would explain it. We managed to connect over 2,000 users on our crappy legacy technology with the help of our partners, and again, that was about relationships. We built laptops, we ordered monitors, we got people working in their homes, which was incredible. We've stood up a VPN solution, record fast time, and that's going to go live shortly. We've built dashboards and GPS real-time info for the exec to understand where people are, what their well-being is, which is a really critical foundation for us. And man, all we did was communicate, because you can imagine our workforce that are using this technology is 3,000 people. They've not really used Teams before. The beginning of the call when Ryan was trying to tell everybody where stuff was, think about Office 365, think about Teams, think about all the other tools and nobody having ever to use them. So my team was just in there. Didn't matter if you were a manager or a staff member, you were actually giving advice to the organisation. And the accolades that we received from the business was pretty amazing, because they recognised it wasn't perfect. It's still not perfect. We've got a long way to go. But they recognised the effort that we put in. And because my team had built a lot of connections with everybody in the organisation, they understood and they were all a part of the journey with us. I only got a little bit more, Ryan. It's about a minute. What I wanted to also articulate was the power of a relationship was when you look at the exec team at Downer, excuse me, too much wine. I know that when March 23rd hit, was we thought we were going into level 3 and bang, we went into level 4, and that completely turned everything tits up. So they sat in a room for hours and hours and they put up a plan came out, and they could only tell us so much. But because of the relationship they have with the workforce and because of the trust we have, we saw 8,000 people roughly all come into a call of action and take on the ask of all of us as employees. So that what happened at Downer was we have 8,000 people, yet 60 to 70% of our workforce stopped on Thursday of the week that we went to Alert 4. The culture at Downer is we are, as I was saying, we are all family. So it was how do we protect everybody. So we went through that, and I was mostly proud of how we came together as a team and we did all of that stuff, but that was only could have been achieved by relationships. The alternative that I've seen, which hasn't been so good, is people think they've got a relationship with you. They ring you, they go, hi, how's it going? How's COVID-19? Is it all going good? And you, yeah, let me do to help you. And by the way, I have this product and would you like to know how it works? And it's like, please understand the situation I'm in. And no, I don't need your product. I just need somebody to give me some help or some advice, not trying to sell it to me at this stage. So relationships are the key thing that gets us through shitty times and diverse times like today. And thank you for listening. Ryan, you're on mute.
You talking?
You're on mute.
Hey.
Well done. Thanks, Nisha.
Done, Mum. Can't hear you, Ryan.
Ryan's on mute. He's mute.
Yeah, now I'm back. All right. So yeah, it's sometimes this works a little bit funny where if you hit mute all, it mutes me as well when it's not meant to, as far as I know. But anyway, we got there. So thank you very much, Nisha. We're going to go on to Justin Tomlinson now. So Justin is our second in the lineup for this evening, and I've got to unmute you, and then I'm going to make you the spotlight as I introduce you. And once we get through to the first 4 speakers, then we'll go into breakout room. And again, looking forward to a 5 minutes high impact perspective. And there we go. Let's bring on, there we go. So here's Justin Tomlinson. So he did send me his intro. I invited all the speakers to send me the intro. We'll leave it up to me. And he sent me one, but I think I should do something a little bit more than what he gave me, because it was quite a sort of humble intro, and I'd like to give you a bit of a picture who this guy is. I guess you could say CDO of Sky Digital at the moment, or Digital Advisor's formal name. He works as a digital advisor, going around a range of different organisations. So some of the places he's been in the past are the All Blacks, one of my favourite things, obviously. Sad to see them not playing at the moment. But goes to an illustrious career back in the UK, where actually in the early days it was with Sky back there as well. But a digital genius is how I'm going to introduce him. No pressure, mate. I know you're giving me that steely look of what did you just say, but that's how I'd like to think of you, because the chats that I've had with Justin have not only been, like Nisha talks about, in terms of relationships and having some really tight human chats, but the digital perspectives when he's talked about different aspects from what's happening in the market to things about AFQY have been mind-blowing. So with that, I'll hand it over to you, Justin. Thank you very much for joining us. Look forward to hearing what you've got to share.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. I'm just going to assume that now everyone can hear me. I hope so. High impact perspective, no pressure. I guess never have I actually just felt more in the same boat than everyone else. And this asked with Ryan asking me to speak and me saying, mate, my hair's on fire right now. And it was just so busy, but I've put the fire out. And but be aware I haven't had as much time as perhaps I would have liked to prepare. So I will first say so much of what I might say is I would echo very strongly, and great words from Nisha there. Thank you so much. Really great words, really heartfelt. I think I'm supposed to talk about connected experiences, but I'm really not great with rules. So I might meander through that at the end, I think, but I'm just going to freestyle, and I'm just reading my notes because I thought I just don't have time to memorize something. So I'll start by saying, if anyone is even listening, then thank you very much. I have been around the block in work, and I've done a fair number of things publicly and keynotes, but I am a person who does tend to try and let my work speak for itself. I've failed at many things, I've succeeded at others. I find myself right now craving interaction, so I just want to say thank you to Ryan and for AFQY for bringing this together right now. You've done a great job, mate, and please rest assured, everybody, I am as totally unqualified as everyone else to be 100% on the money tonight. I'm just going to say what I think. Like a lot of us, I'm curious to learn how others are feeling. All aspects of lives have changed. Our friends and families are, they're not around so much. Families, yes. I am a little bit scared, if I'm honest. I'm wondering, is this the first wave? Is this the first pandemic of many? But there is a part of me that is massively excited by what the world may become the other side of COVID-19. And I'll come on to that in the question that I kind of want to put out there for you guys to think about. We live in New Zealand. We are, I think, incredibly lucky. We've got the advantage of living in a country that's got every reason to succeed right now. We can control the spread of this virus, and the data, I'm really pleased to say today, from what I saw, is starting to tell that story. And we're also lucky in terms of essential services. We generate enough power in this country for everyone. Most of it is renewable. We produce enough food each year to feed 4 times our population. We've got great communications infrastructure. We've got great fiber. We've got great broadband. And our health service, really importantly, and frontline, is prepared for what's coming. So I'm not going to say we're going to get back to normal, but I'm really hoping that what's the other side of this is a new normal. I'm really hoping that it's something very different. The government has done a great job so far, and I hope it follows up and is decisive in supporting small and medium-sized businesses. People who will, through no fault of their own, will start to really struggle now with day-to-day expenses, and I just hope the government is there for those businesses and those individuals. But it leads me to bigger questions. It seems weird in my world that I've been having these conversations about disruption and technologies that are cited as the big drivers of change: AI, machine learning, blockchain, AR, VR, Internet of Things. None of those things have gone mainstream. Quantum computing, climate change have just all had their asses handed to them by a virus from Mother Nature. And that shows more than ever that necessity is the mother of invention, truly. As we just heard from Nisha, we've argued over projects for months in corporates about complexity and cost and priority that suddenly have been executed in weeks. I work with Sky New Zealand. We've taken our contact center to a cloud-based solution in no time at all. Never would we have considered doing that before. And yet this thing is galvanizing action and galvanizing people to do stuff that they never would have attempted. So this is the biggest driver to pivot that we've ever seen. I am not a massive fan of consultants who try to sweep up and codify after the rebels have shown that new models can work. There is no codified bulletproof approach to your business dealing with this black swan event. That's what I really believe. You can search for common sense, and much of it is applied common sense, but really at this point, not everyone's going to make it. And what we're going to be left with in the business world after this, I think, is going to be really choppy for a while. So, my question to the group is, can we live with this boom and bust, totally growth focused, consumerist, capitalist model through this event? Can quantitative easing and massive bailouts work one more time? I'm a Gen Xer, right? And personally, my hypothesis is I don't think this is what younger people want. They want a sharing economy. They want a circular economy. They want decentralization. They want regenerative models. They want access, not ownership. They want reuse, not disposal. They want minimalism, not consumerism. They want less hierarchy. They want more trust. They want self-organization and the ability to work from anywhere. In terms of what my generation want, I see a flight to artisan, local, simple pleasures, and a future that's less reliant on globalization and mass consumerism, especially in a world where global travel will be harder and possibly even frowned upon. There has to be a desired redefinition of success in my mind, from pure growth, profit, and GDP towards enterprise and community and value, things that value the planet, the people, the purpose, prosperity, win-win, and profit last. Of course, some of people will say that that form of capitalism, is a dream. So when we break out, or when we come back, or when we get to talk again, I'd love to ask the question, is it time for a major reset in the capitalist system? So look, in terms of connected experiences, this crisis is the ultimate one. We're in a rare circumstance, united in a fight with a common enemy that doesn't give a shit about our color, our country, our culture, our race, or what team you support. This is a massive change, and I hope it's one that allows a kinder, more empathic and egalitarian way forward. We've got so much wisdom in this room and in this group, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation. My final words are just be kind, be well, and let's enjoy a few quiet yarns.
Well, man, that was amazing. That was, well, I'd pitched to having something digital. That's actually the subject I really want to get people talking about, which is they call it the Great Reset. And one of the things I'm always concerned about is when it's too extreme, it scares people off, because we've been programmed to not rock the boat. And while we sort of want to question status quo and change things in an agile world, when it gets to the bigger societal things, people are scared of being the one that stands out and says it. My little short is that we're quite happy to say it on our soapbox at our barbecue and have our whinge, and that's what people call it. So we don't go further and talk about it publicly because we fear how people will react to it. But yeah, I definitely think about it. My parting comment before we go to a round of applause is that I see a lot of arguments that talk about socialism, capitalism, communism, and no three of them work. And as soon as someone says something, they go, that's capitalism. No, that's socialism. No, that's communism. And I say, for fuck's sake, what about option 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11? Bring together the things that work and don't just block it. As soon as someone starts talking about something new, don't just go, that's capitalism, it doesn't work. That's socialism, it doesn't work. But let's give Justin a round of applause on the count of 3, as loud as you can. Thank you very much. That was awesome. You're not that noisy. The first one was way more noisy. Come on. There's a whole lot of people still muted. I can't believe it.
Thank you. Thank you. Really good. Very inspiring.
Cool. Okay, so
Thank you.
Well done.
thank you, Justin. So
Thank
now
you.
on to our third speaker for this evening, and that is Ryan Ingram. So I'm just going to get Ryan lined up here before we start to introduce him and get him going. There we go, and spotlight video. So this is Ryan Ingram. If you can just tilt your camera a little bit forward so the light doesn't, there we go, we can actually see you. Look at that handsome man. He would have been married a few days ago, but COVID-19 put a curtail to that, and his stag do. However, it's an interesting story to start off with as a meet the person, not the suit. And getting on to the other side of it, he's one of our sponsors and representing Magnetism. Now, if you saw in the post or didn't, I was thinking I was going to be looking for a bank loan because, as in a COVID-19 loan, because I've done the emergency package. Don't know how many other small businesses or contractors out there have, but I put my hand up and tell everybody that I have, and was sort of thinking, how do I get equity out in the house? Because the bank is going to say, how are you going to pay that off? Well, I don't know. We could be dead in 6 months, so just give us the money, mate. But then after a couple of discussions, this email popped through at 10:30 at night, and we've been talking about an event, or maybe 3 months, and it comes through saying, let's do, we want to do 12 months, we'll do every second month with an event, and we'd like to do some LinkedIn training, we'd like to do that. And I literally had tears running down my cheek as I went, oh my goodness, there is actually someone out there. So I just want to thank Guyan, who's actually here, and say thank you, and hand over to Ryan, who got given the pass, the hospital pass.
Hospital pass
for the pass to pick up the ball for Magnetism. So thank you very much. Looking forward to your stories, and over to you.
Cool, thanks Ryan. So hey everyone, Ryan Ingram. I'll start by saying it's kind of flowing on from what Ryan said. Should be currently sipping cocktails on a beach in Thailand somewhere on my honeymoon, but here I am speaking with all you nice folks from my dining room table in Wellington. So our company, obviously Magnetism, is sponsoring today along with Duco Consultancy. So it was actually a chance meeting with Ryan at a Microsoft Awards meeting a while back, and a couple of kind of virtual coffees that happened the last week or so. And obviously now I'm speaking here. So I was asked to kind of discuss how COVID-19 was impacting kind of our business and also our clients' businesses. It's no surprise that I'm kind of following on from the previous speakers. We're in the middle of a historic event right now. Everyone's living it. It's probably all that we've been talking about to our friends and colleagues and neighbours as well. And actually, as an aside, how good is it that we're now talking and getting closer to our neighbours? I've been kind of checking in on the phone and kind of yelling out over the driveway on our 89-year-old neighbour who's who said that just a check to see everything that she might need. So and having chats with her over the driveway and on the phone, and she informed me that she used to be a ballerina and can still do the splits at 89. So she's an amazing woman. And before lockdown, we would literally wave to each other in the driveway, and I would have no relationship with her. And it's kind of from a personal perspective and also a business perspective, it follows on from what Nisha was saying in terms of the importance of relationships. And on one hand, the lockdown is pulling people apart, and then on the other, we're closer than ever. So obviously, with the use of Zoom, Teams, and video calling, and I've been also doing a bit of online poker. We're still interacting, but in a new way. So obviously, I'm part of a company that develops and delivers Dynamics CRM. So this shift in the relationship that we've been seeing is actually really interesting to me. And it's also, to back up what Nisha said, it's all about people and relationships. So what's particularly interesting, and it's because my day-to-day is to help clients kind of get closer to theirs. So that's why we build systems. That's why I do what I do. So I started thinking about how the systems that we put in are helping our clients manage the shift that they're feeling right now. And actually, another interesting thing I saw on LinkedIn, which you guys may have seen, it was an image that struck a chord with me, and it's kind of simplicity and effectiveness. It said, "Who's leading the digital transformation of your company? Is it A, the CEO, the B, the CTO, or C, the COVID 19?" And obviously, it's tongue in cheek, and although effective, these things started to kind of merge in my mind, and I started thinking, what companies have had digital transformation in plan or are currently working on one. And it's following on from Justin and saying, it got me thinking that maybe, hopefully, this COVID-19 will have a silver lining. And I actually think probably some of the toilet paper companies are starting to see that silver lining. But what I really mean is I saw an article today from the CEO of Tourism New Zealand, and the first line was, "I probably stopped counting when we hit $1 billion in losses," and that was incredible to me. Obviously, the tourism industry probably one of the hardest hit in the world, and obviously in New Zealand. And they're currently regrouping, obviously strategizing about how to market in New Zealand to the new world, and both nationally and internationally. And as Justin said, I think it will be nationally. There will be hard times. It forces everyone to push reset and really investigate the digital transformation that we all know is possible. So, can you imagine if this happened in 1995 or even 2005? We wouldn't have the dial-up. The dial-up wouldn't have coped, pretty much. So obviously overnight we're able to move whole offices into people's living rooms, and this is following on again from what Nisha said, which is good to hear. And we've been able to operate like that, and it's quite an amazing feat. So I wanted to just quickly talk through some of our clients and what they're doing with their systems really quickly, and what's working for them right now. They're silver lining as well, and that started to come to light. They're working in a new way now that they never saw coming. So obviously no one has been able to predict this, right? So some of the stuff that they're doing has been able to work well in this new world. So one company called Martin Personnel specializes in placing skilled workers into vacant jobs, and so obviously part of their business hasn't been impacted significantly, but they've also been able to place essential workers into jobs quickly, such as food production and forklift operators, truck drivers, grocery workers, etc., etc. So they've been able to match kind of skilled workers with staff shortages instantly, and they've had the system to match them up, select the worker, and then the worker went off and has done the job. So they've also been able to automate a lot of payroll and portal stuff, and they've basically been able to make sure that all of their people have been able to get paid, on time, which is amazing at this, where we are right now. So it was obviously also always an objective for the system to do that, but an unintended consequence for them. So their silver lining has been able to kind of weather the storm while helping New Zealand place essential workers into jobs. So that's been key. And yeah, we also have been doing some work with a government organisation that is similar to Nisha. So they've been aiming to go onto the cloud and just recently got onto the cloud and into Dynamics, and never in a million years would have thought that their whole team would be working from home at one point in time for so long. So only a month or so ago they went live, and kind of now they're all over the moon because they've been able to get their team access from home and operate kind of business as usual as much as possible. So I guess going back to my question, who is driving the digital transformation? It's obviously no doubt going to be all three: the CEO, the CIO, and the COVID 19 in the new world. It's important to consider obviously the application of the technology and to try and see that silver lining. The silver lining is obviously going to be tough, and from what Justin said, following that up, it will be tough. But maybe your silver lining in your company is that you can actually press reset. You can redesign and kind of reimagine how your organization operates. And I guess if a 89-year-old can still do the splits, then anything is possible.
I love it. An 89-year-old doing the splits, and that does create visions or imagination of the fact that we can do anything we put our mind to. And what is the famous catch cry is that necessity is the mother of all invention. So and thank you very much, Ryan. That was really cool. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention it, but one of the clients was actually on our yarn with, you talked about the Coast Guard. And the work you do there. So I can imagine that, there's a range of organisations with critical services and they're getting that essential workers into place. So just before we go though, I did want to unmute Guyan and just spotlight him so we can say hi to Guyan. Thank you very much. Thank you for supporting AFQY, you and Ryan and the team, but that little note that came through, much appreciated. So cheers, brother. And what I'll do now is find our next speaker, Kurti, just typing it in, Kurti Suman. There we go. So, go mute Kurti and spotlight. So, there we go. So,
hey,
hey, how you going? So, I just want to introduce Kurti, and so Kurti, you'll hear, has a beautiful accent from the UK. She moved to New Zealand in 2012, so that's 8 years to experience living abroad. I actually went on my OE to the UK and certainly experienced living abroad, you could say. Some good stories later on. Recently becoming a citizen, so we'll get you to sing the anthems, both English, Māori and the haka. And is living in New Zealand, wants to explore more New Zealand, is happy taking suggestions. And in the 8 years she's been here in Auckland, has moved from product development, diversification, digital transformation, is now Chief Digital and Innovation Officer at REINZ. That is not the SAS, that is the Real Estate Institute of NZ. It sounds pretty cool. Kurti will be sharing some thoughts on how current disruption across the world is driving some of the companies to be innovative and diversify their product ranges. So, that's enough for me. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the great intro. Yeah, I just wanted to share a couple of things with you guys. Obviously, I'm from the UK, so I'll probably start by saying probably similar to what a lot of people have said, which is around I'm really grateful to be in New Zealand right now. I've got a lot of family and friends globally at the moment that are not in anywhere near a great place like we are. The UK has been in lockdown for a number of weeks. They've got at least a good being told from schools and stuff that don't expect your children to be back at school until September now. So if you think where we are now and where September is, that's a long time to entertain your children at home, work from home, no holidays, you can't take them anywhere. That's a disruption actually at a whole nother level, because that's a personal life disruption in addition to the economy, the work, you know, everything else that's going on, and quite difficult for children to understand for that length of time. I think a few weeks you can kind of get around it. They've already done nearly a month, and they've got quite a long way to go. So yeah, it's definitely worlds apart from what we're going through in terms of what they're going through right now. And the same with, I've got family in the US, and they work in medical, so they're at the front line, and the stories that I'm hearing from there are equally harrowing, and the stuff that they're going through is something that I don't even think we can even imagine. So yeah, it's kind of, that's one aspect of some of the stuff that's going on. But if you actually look at the other side of that coin, there are other things that are going to come from outside of this that are going to change things. So the disruption, and I think I've been thinking about this quite a lot this week and probably over the last couple of weeks, around the fact that companies have delayed disruption to some extent. Some companies have held back and have not wanted to change, and other companies have been really proactive and have gone for it. This has changed that, because this has forced it, and this has meant that for those people that don't like change, this is absolutely massive for them, because they like routine. They want to go in and do the same thing every day. They're used to a certain way of living, and unfortunately this has changed that, which means that they're struggling to cope with the amount of change that's going on. There's companies as a whole that are struggling with change because, you know, they can't control this. This is something that's completely out of their control. They haven't really planned for it, and all of a sudden they're having to, the BCP plan doesn't actually make much sense, as I found. I dug ours out, and somebody had written it absolutely ages ago, and I literally had to rewrite the whole thing because it didn't make sense for the environment that we were in. And so therefore, again, massive amounts of change, taking everybody on the journey, and in fast pace, right? Because there wasn't a lot of time for any of us to do anything. But I think if you look around the world and you look even locally, you look at the companies that have really kind of turned this on its head and taken some kind of positive out of it. There's companies in New Zealand like Cactus, they're a clothing manufacturing company. They are now producing the face masks for the front line. They're helping the medical profession by producing face masks out of Christchurch, and they've changed their business model. They've kind of looked and thought about factories and what can we do and how can we actually help them. But then at the same time, this potentially could become a future revenue model for them. There is nothing stopping them in the future actually going down this path now, because they're going to get it licensed. So what stops them? Nothing. They've entered a whole new space in a very short space of time, just by thinking about things a little bit differently and looking at where their strengths were, what they had available, and the fact that they had a passion to help and really did want to do something good for New Zealand. I think there's other companies like the Good George Brewing Company, and they've obviously gone into hand sanitizers and are not necessarily brewing as much alcohol, which I'm sure not all of us are that pleased about, but yeah, they've also gone in and helped, and they're giving the products away for free. But then again, the same thing, this allows them to go into a whole new revenue stream, potentially for the future if they choose to. You look around the world and you look at Louis Vuitton and you look at L'Oreal. Louis Vuitton could see what was coming their way, right? People are not high-end fashion. Who's going to be paying for that right now? Not many people. China's one of their biggest economies that they have gone into. So this at least helps them to get into something new by them producing hand sanitizers, and they're doing a very similar thing. Dyson, you know, they've gone into ventilators. You know, why? You know, yeah, great, they're helping, and you know, GM, Ford, all of these companies are helping, but at the same time they're also doing something that potentially, once it gets labeled and you know they've got permission to do them, they potentially have an opportunity to create revenue for the future. So they're kind of starting to think about their strengths. They're looking at how they can help and their passion and desire to help in their local markets, which is great because that's hopefully going to help in each domestic country, because people will manufacture stuff again, because this is what's going to open up. Like I'm hearing in the UK, they've opened up textile factories that they haven't used for years. And all of a sudden they're making their own clothing, and they are now making hospital garments and all sorts of stuff that they haven't done for years. But that's all stuff that's coming back into those domestic markets in the short term, because companies are having to think differently and having to think about what they can do. So it's it's thinking about what we can do in this time. So there's a couple of questions that I'm kind of working with my team on, and I've kind of challenged things I'm thinking about. So there's just things I'm going to throw out there. What can you do in your business to generate new revenue? So what strengths do your businesses have that potentially you could use or leverage to make a different revenue stream? What opportunities do you see coming from this adversity? So either for you personally or also for the organisations that you work for. And what will you change after this experience? So if you were to think about the things that you love and what the world needs, what you could get paid for, and what you're good at, what would you change about you, your way of living, the way of thinking, or even in the jobs that you do? So they're just a couple of takeaway things that I've been thinking about, but also, you know, things that you might be thinking about. I don't know if I was spot on time, but I tried to keep it short.
You did very well. So thank you very much.
Okay.
And I thought there was really interesting. So some of those examples from around the world of what they're doing in terms of, you know, Dyson doing their ventilators. I think in Italy they've been converting scuba masks as well. Formula One, and yeah, it's a catalyst or inspiration to what can you do. But then I think the bigger question, the more holistic question you asked is, what's your personal reset? What world do you want to live in, which links back to some of the concepts that Justin shared. So I'm going to unmute everybody, and this is our last speaker. We're going to go into breakout rooms in a second, but I just want everyone to give a big round of applause for Kurti and the sharing around the concepts of innovation and personal reset. Thank you very much.
Living in Italy.
Yo.
Awesome.
Okay. So
Shit.
There we go. And what we're going to do now is go into a breakout room so that you can discuss what you've heard from the first 4 speakers. And then we're going to come back and hear the next 4 speakers, starting with Chand and Ori. So please have a good chat, have a good yarn, stick with us. One of the key speakers that I want you to hear among everybody who is one, which is going to be a little bit different, is Sarah Laurie, who's going to talk about breathing and the biological ability that it has to reverse anxiety. So whether it's of use to you or of use to your teams that you can then share, this is some great information you're going to hear, as well as the insights from our other speakers. So let's go into breakout room, have a good yarn with the people that you get into a room with, and we will be back in 5 minutes. So see you soon.
Oh. Do you think you might make some dinner or something? Hi. I can't hear anybody other than hello.
Sorry, I muted myself individually, and when I went unmute all, thought I'd unmuted myself, but realised that as host, I have to unmute me individually. But everyone should be unmuted now, except for those that have had to get up and walk away. But no, so it's you and me. This is the main room, breakout room. Oh, there goes Mr. Ingram.
Oh, so we're in our room now.
Well, we're in the main room. So I created breakout rooms for everybody, and I don't quite know the science, but yeah, this is essentially our breakout room for the next few minutes. So yeah, how's it going?
Good. Hi, you're looking very handsome. You've shaven. Fresh shaven.
Yes.
Looks
Thank you very
good.
much for that. I look better, probably 20 kgs lighter. I forgot about the aging chin, but that's all right. That's life.
No, all good. So great sessions. So who else have we got in here?
So we've got Ryan Ingram.
Hi, Ryan.
Hey, Dale, how's it going?
Good. Congratulations on supporting this gig.
Oh, yeah, no worries. Not a problem. Thought you were going to say congratulations on getting married.
Oh,
That's what I thought was coming, but
Yeah.
have you done that?
No.
So did you like cancel everything, all your guests and?
Yeah, we had to, it kind of went through as all the stuff was happening, I had to push out honeymoon. We're like, oh, maybe we can't go to Japan. We'd planned to go to Japan, but maybe we have to cancel Japan, and then ended up canceling Vietnam and Thailand and then Japan. And then I was like, okay, maybe I have to cancel my stag do. So I canceled the stag do, and then it kind of started snowballing. So we were going to have a smaller wedding, and then we had to cancel that, and then we had to cancel the full thing. So.
Oh, wow, that's sad. But I hope when you do get to get married, it'll be just so much more special.
Yeah, I hope so. I said to everyone, it's just going to be double the celebration. I'll have double the alcohol, and
I was going to say, we should almost run like a stag do for you, I reckon. Have the AFQY no wedding stag do. I mean, that is, yeah.
What's that going to look like? Is that going to be virtual, you think?
What would that look like?
Yeah, good question.
Well, let's put it this way. All cameras, phones have to be left at the door.
Yeah, there's no recording on that one, eh?
No way. No social media photos for that one. I remember when I used to run clubs in the UK. Yeah, some of the things, and I just wonder what they do now, because anybody could have a camera out. Probably I won't describe some of the things I've witnessed on this because it's going public, but let's just say there's some colourful things I've seen. Sherry,
I'll bet.
Welcome to the jungle. So I'm thinking we might start bringing everybody back in. So I will do that. I'll go and kill the breakout room now and bring everybody back. If you've got background noise, I'll ask you to mute, and I'll try not to mute everybody else. And all right, there we go. So everyone will start coming in, and actually what I might do is all right. Welcome back, everybody. Good to have you back. Hope you had a good little chat. We going to start getting into the next 4 speakers. Oops. Thank you for the weather update. Oops. I keep on pressing the unmute all. That's why it doesn't work. I press unmute when I should be pressing mute. So we're just bringing everybody back in from being out in the breakout rooms, and we're going to crack into our next 4 speakers. So we'll just wait till we've got everyone in here, ticking away. I know that everyone will be loving having the conversations that they are, and great to have you all coming back. We'll have more breakout rooms at the conclusion of the speakers and the insights. So stick with us. I feel like I'm a news presenter. Stick with us for more breaking news. In this case, great insights from our amazing speakers. So I think we could be getting there. 81. I think we've got a few more to come. All right. There we go, bouncing through everybody. So what I'm going to do is get there we go. So on your screen now will be Chandan Ori, who is our other AFQY sponsor and speaker. And I just wanted to share a similar story along with magnetism. We have been talking, we've been talking for quite a while, and I turned down a day at the box at Eden Park for cricket to Shandon's disbelief. And then he very kindly said, well, if you can't do that, let's do the Blues and Warriors doubleheader at Eden Park. And that was my wife's birthday. And I said, I'm really sorry, but I can't do that either, because, and I'm sure he was at the other end just about falling off his chair going, what is with this guy? I thought he was an Otago rugby nut. What's with him? So we've been having some online discussions, and then I turned around and said, well, you're probably not going to the box that much. Would you like to get involved with AFQY? I think in less than 12 hours, we had an agreed sponsorship, and it was very special because he turned around and said to me, he said, having had a look at it, here's a budget. I'd like to do 5 or 6 events and also do some LinkedIn training, but I'll leave it to you. You work out what it was going to best serve my business. And to me, that was just quite amazing. You know, we're moving into this time of psychological safety and having autonomy of work, and that was an example of where we, working as 2 different organisations, gave me the autonomy to suggest what was going to be best for him. Amazing story. So I love we did the yarn with and shared a story of starting as a cleaner at Burger King, now runs a consultancy with over 100 staff, has just employed, was it 12 or 18 staff? No, 12, you can correct me, but 12 or 18 staff since COVID-19. We've got 13 more to go. So in that zone of some organisations have got lots to do, some have got not to do. There's a lot of need because he delivers a lot of services to essential services. But here's my introduction to Chandan, and I'll hand over to you to share your thoughts with everybody here. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. And it's been great to be part of the AFQY community. It is my first time attending this event today, and I'm having a great time. Today we heard from some amazing speakers, and I cannot emphasize enough the value of relationships, resilience, and above all, being and acting as an entrepreneur. We need all of us, employers, employees, contractors, vendors, customers. Voice of the customer is very important to act as entrepreneurs, creating new opportunities, ways of working, and innovation. So it is not the few that need to be entrepreneur. I think it is the entire ecosystem around us. We need to think positively in terms of how we add value to this ecosystem community around us. And now is the time to think beyond ourselves and look after our community. Every small bit of contribution will be valued in these unprecedented times. We all need to think beyond our individual needs and be imaginative, curious, probing. We need to have endless energy, risk-taking, passionate. As the other speakers have said, we need to go out there, cultivate relationships with everyone. I re-emphasize our employers, vendors, customers, and make sure that we help the ecosystem around us in any way we can. Entrepreneurship and diversification has been the hallmark of our company, Duco Consultancy. One of the ways we grew was making sure that we had spread ourselves across different industries. As an example, from public sector distribution, manufacturing. And the next diversification we did was across countries. So from New Zealand to Australia, Melbourne and Sydney, and then more recently into California and US. We then doubled up with our global delivery center in India, just to make sure that we were covered. And I think that has helped us a lot because we were able to get the talent from different economies, different places. At the same time, we were able to tap into into different industries, and that has helped us in this time. We have been able to tap into a lot of talent, invest in talent in these difficult times. One, because we are working with some essential services, and as some of the speakers said earlier, we are able to take decisions much faster. And I think it's a proof today that we hide ourselves behind business cases, decision-making, discounted cash flows. But when the rubber hits the road at the time, and when the need arises, we can take very quick decisions. And I think we should never lose sight of how fast decision-making can happen. And during this time, the relationships that we had has basically has held us in very good stead. As an example, on a personal front, and not only just consulting, I also diversify into other businesses, including education, and not just international education, but domestic education as well. In the last 2 years, we did acquisitions, 4 acquisitions with tertiary education providers. So if we hadn't done the diversification in different businesses, whether it's education, consulting, geographies, people, I think we would have been in a very, very tough position. However, the environment that we have created is very strong, and we come out strong. And what we need is positive thinking. COVID, we hear a lot of negative press at times with industries, losing a lot. But what I say to people is we have to come out of it. We will come out of it. It is a matter of 4 and 6 weeks. It will be a disaster for some businesses, some industries. But what we cannot lose is positive thinking, the attitude that we can make it happen, the attitude that this will be behind us. I love the saying, this shall also pass. So good times pass, and so do the bad times. So I'm a big believer in this shall also pass. Thank you everyone for listening to me, and happy to continue our discussion in breakout rooms.
So thank you very much, Chandan. That is a really good outlook and perspective that you've been able to share with us, including how your successes into diversification are good insight, and that we've got to remain positive. And it's interesting, like when I've gone through tough personal times, there was a moment where I realized, this is 1 second in time right now. The next second, my mind might change, and I'm not feeling anxious or depressed. So it's sort of taking that personal view into what you're talking about, is that if we remain positive, we don't know when we're going to turn that corner. This is just like we didn't know when we turned into lockdown and level 4. So I'm going to unmute everybody and give everyone the opportunity to thank Chandan. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Well done, man.
Thank you very much. All right. So now we're just going to go on to our next speaker, who is actually a Kiwi. And you'll hear why I say actually, because if I'm not wrong, where's Mike gone? Hang on, he could be under Michael. Do we have a Michael? So I'm looking for Mike Klempworth from Kiwi Bank. Might need you to, hang on, I'll just scroll through here while I am introducing him. So I'm just trying to remember how I met Mike. I think he might have come to an AFQY, dragged along by another person. And he is now at Kiwi Bank. And you might have seen some of the banter through LinkedIn. So I'm not sure if Hamish Archer is here or any of the other banking fraternity, but there's been certainly a little bit of stick handed back and forth. And I think Mike may have... So I'm going to go to Mark Lovey, and while Mark's speaking, I will have a little search to see if Mike's had a problem and disappeared. So I'm going to go to Mark Lovey. So Mark, there we go, unmute. And just as I introduce you, I'll put you on the spotlight. So Mark is currently in Canada, and for those of you who are more my age bracket, you may remember Satellite Spies. So Mark has a little bit of fame and history in the background, lead singer for Satellite Spies. Destiny in Motion. 1986, won the award for, I think it was Best Male Voice. And during that time, this is where we link into modern day in software development. He started doing some coding, and as he got excited about that and developed that, he got deeper into it and eventually ended up building Exonet, which is now, I think it's called MYOB Advanced, and off the back of it built a services company called Emprise, which ended up, if I'm not saying this incorrectly, purchased Datagate, which is a billing engine, which does all these amazing things with AI in the background to read data coming out of just about anything, so it can combine all your billing. So more commonly used for things like consumption, so cell phones, water, but it could package up anything. So currently in Canada, working hard to bring on all the Canadian businesses that might need Datagate services. But you know, I sort of think of him as one of the original Kiwi developers that helped build the industry. So with that, I'll hand over to you, Mark. What's happening in Canada? How's it all going?
Well, thank you, Ryan. It's great to be back at AFQY after a couple of years away. It's obviously not so easy to attend from here, but here's a new opportunity that's come about via COVID and going online. So about a year ago, my wife Lee and I moved to Vancouver. Lee is actually here with AFQY tonight, Lee Dubber, and our mission is expanding our business into the North American market. We're both in our 50s. Our children are grown up and now independent. So this was going to be our new big adventure, a late OE. Neither of us had done an OE when we were younger, so this was doing it at the other end, and it's I think quite a good thing to do, you know, when you're especially when your children have grown up, is to go out and let's have an adventure, and also do something in a business as well. So we chose Vancouver. It's a beautiful city. It's got a very active technology industry, very much like in New Zealand. It's close to New Zealand. You know, you used to be able to fly with one flight here directly, and the airport is very well connected, and so we can get around the United States and Canada very easily from here. So it ticked a lot of boxes, and also going to Canada. I was originally born in Canada, so Canadian citizen. It made it a little bit easier being a dual citizen. And at the start, it was really a cautious experiment. It was, let's go and see what we can do up there and see how it works, and we can always come back if things go wrong. But yeah, maybe not now. So we've had a year in Canada now. It's actually worked really well for us. We've been really focusing on the US market, even though we're in Canada, and we've been attending and sponsoring conferences for the IT industry all throughout New Zealand, all throughout the United States, and so we've met a lot of people there. We formed a lot of relationships, a lot of partnerships, and really got ourselves established in the within the IT industry, and we focus on now managed service providers, that's MSPs who sell telecom, and we've enhanced our solution to be particularly suitable for that. We've learned thousands of things from being here, and sort of realized that you actually need to get here amongst the American environment to have all these learnings. And it was actually a guy called Mark Slosberg, who's the head of marketing for a company called Wolters Kluwer, one of our partners here, that said to me, Mark, we Americans, we don't mind foreigners, but we don't like it when you remind us every 5 minutes that you're a foreigner. And I took that to heart and said, well, what does that mean for a business? Well, what we did to make ourselves look a bit more natural in the American environment, we set up a virtual presence in Jacksonville, Florida. A friend of mine from a previous business, Greg Robinson, he's a retired sales guy. He works for us there as our contact, and so we have a virtual office there. We have a company called Regis that has an office, and that we re-rent the virtual presence. All our phone numbers are Jacksonville phone numbers. We have American-looking email addresses with .com. We've set up ourselves up, so we've got that office in America. We've even registered a company called Datagate Innovation America Inc. And we've also registered a company in Canada to employ the staff here to service the American market. So lots and lots of things we've learned. You know, there's so many little things that are different about doing business in America, and for that matter, Canada is sort of somewhere in the middle between New Zealand and America in terms of how it does things. So you know, we've had to go back to using checks. Americans and Canadians love checks, and they have all sorts of different acronyms to us, ACH and GICs, and they're very big on credit scores too. And I learned all about that when I was trying to get myself a credit card. You'd think would be a very easy thing to do. In New Zealand, I get banks chasing me to sign up for credit cards. So I thought I'll get a credit card. So I made that mistake. I got rejected the first time. I got rejected again, rejected. I kept reapplying for different credit cards. I could not believe that I was getting rejected for credit cards. I generally have a good credit reference, but anyway, I went and saw one of the banks and talked to a lady there. And anyway, she said, "Oh, you've applied for all these credit cards. That's terrible. You've been declined. That's gonna your credit reference is now trashed. You know, you've got a very low credit score." And I said, why is that? Oh, because you had no credit score before. Nobody knew anything about you, and all we know now is you've had all these declines. So I learned very quickly. They're very analytical about credit ratings there, and so now I'm working on a program to gradually rebuild and get a good credit reference. And even though I've never defaulted on anything, you know, these are things you learn when you go into a different country. And so, you know, we found Vancouver very welcoming place. It's very much like New Zealand. It's got beautiful outdoors. It's a real outdoors sort of place. It's got the people here are very welcoming. It's very multicultural, very tolerant of diversity, very eco-friendly. It's got lots of things like New Zealand. Like Whistler is like another Queenstown. The population of British Columbia is about the same as the population of New Zealand. Vancouver is very much like Auckland, similar type of environment, you know, by the water. It rains a lot here. We get a bit of snow in the winter, and it's a bit colder. They've got beautiful resources for cycling. The cycle lanes everywhere, and so Lee and I have got into cycling as a result of that. We can cycle all around the city. Never have to share cycles lanes with the cars. We've got dedicated cycling paths. So we really do like the environment here. It's very Kiwi friendly. But now, of course, with COVID-19, British Columbia is very much following the same sort of rules as New Zealand. You know, we've been in lockdown maybe slightly longer. So Lee and I, you know, working from an apartment here in downtown Vancouver, and you know, which is quite normal. Our company, fortunately, has been set up with mainly around cloud software. We sell cloud software. And the industry we support, the IT companies, the MSPs, are all crazy busy at the moment because they're getting all their clients geared up to work from home. And so the industry, you know, very lucky with that industry. It's very busy, and there's a lot of business going on. But how COVID-19 has affected us personally, I myself have had 2 friends in New Zealand that have died over the last 3 months. I've also had my father in hospital. And that's been really terrible, you know, being here in Canada when I think I would really like to go back to New Zealand, but it's actually really not that easy now. There's very, very few flights, virtually no flights now going from Canada to New Zealand. We can't go through the United States because the border's been closed to the US. So really, if I can find if I could find a flight back, I'd have to go into quarantine now for 2 weeks. It really makes it, and then makes it very difficult to justify the trip. And also when you come back into Canada, you've got the same rules here. Canada's very similar to New Zealand in that respect. So, you know, another 2 weeks in isolation. So really, you know, as an expat, you know, with Lee and I are feeling now that when we first came over here, we were thinking it's very easy to get back to New Zealand. Now we find ourselves in a very different situation. But the nice thing is you can have a virtual presence anywhere, and it's great how we can attend New Zealand functions like this one. You know, we can be in New Zealand virtually. We've got New Zealand cell phones. We can still, you know, we've got family and friends there. So some things are good about it. And I guess overall, I'll wrap up by saying you're never too old to do an OE. I guess I'm doing things in my 50s that maybe other people do in their 20s or 30s, but you know, doing an OE in a different country, forces you to learn lots of things, keeps your brain active, takes you out of your comfort zone, even if it is a friendly place like British Columbia, learning lots of new things. But there's other ways other than travel. Obviously, travel's not going to be so easy now. So, but I'd encourage people to think of doing things, out of their comfort zone, and don't believe that you can't do things in your 50s or 60s or whatever. You can do anything you like. And I'm enjoying doing a startup again, and where most startup guys are maybe in the 30s or 40s, 20s. You can do it. So if anyone's interested in shifting to North America, we'd be very glad to help you in any way. So don't hesitate to reach out to me or my wife, Lee Dubber, who's also on this webinar tonight. So thank you for listening, and look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. That's great, and I love that point around never too old to start anything. So hopefully that means I still might have a chance to become a rock star. But if you hear me sing, you will know that's probably never going to happen. So that's all right. But it's very interesting to hear, and it's sort of what I thought is that New Zealand and Canada would be very similar. And one of the other people that's on the call, I think he might have left, Sean Mueller, in one of the AFQY cafes, talked about there's a set of headphones that he's bought. I'm going to buy, and it releases electrical charge into your brain, and it resets your neuroplasticity. And he had the most amazing experience of being able to learn much faster as a result of using them. So I've gone out and I'm looking at buying a pair. I don't know if I can get them at the moment, but yeah, it's quite amazing. So rock on, dude. Thank you so much for joining us from Canada.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yep. So let's give Mark a round of applause. Thank you very much. Okay. Now we have found Mike. There we go. So I'm going to bring Mike on. There we go. Let's mute all and bring Mike on. So, oh look, he was trying to run away. Or Phil's.
He's just trying to get a gin.
Fair enough. Okay, so this is Mike Clentworth. Now, from memory, if I'm not about to embarrass myself, you have a accent that makes you sound like a foreigner or a new Kiwi, but you're actually a native-born Kiwi, and currently, I'm going to say HSD. That's head of solutions delivery at Kiwi Bank, and has been copping a little bit of banter from all the banking mates around LinkedIn. So looking forward to hearing you share about teaming and being able to work together. So thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, I opened myself up for a little bit of banter. So I'm New Plymouth born and bred, which is, you mentioned Hamish Archer before. I went to kindergarten with Hamish. And he was one of my groomsmen and I was one of his groomsmen. So I'm pretty sure the people who were initiating banter got some mutually assured destruction should that kick off. So I was going to talk about teaming, and then like most of you, I suspect, I've been inundated over the past 2 weeks with LinkedIn posts and emails about how to keep your high performing team going over the past 2 years. So I got to over COVID. So I got a little bit bored with the topic, and I actually pretty much have felt over the past week an overwhelming gratitude to the people who are in predominantly the essential services in New Zealand and the things that are keeping them going. Not just teaming, but I'm a little bit of a cynic, and so probably a lot of a cynic. And when I first started thinking about COVID, I was a little bit blasé. What I'm actually now realizing is that there are people going out in scary situations, whether it's police or doctors and nurses and ambulances and all of those people every day. And ironically, banking is one of those essential services, which I don't self-reflection kind of put myself in that same thing as the genuine front line. But what it turns out is that everyone in New Zealand needs a bank, and everyone in the world effectively needs a bank. And so we have the previous speaker talking about what's driving digital revolution. You know, going from a bank, and all banks in New Zealand at least still have very high branch network foot traffic and very high numbers of people who can only do their banking because of their experience or their background or their mindset, the change curve they're going through via a physical presence. And so the first thing I really wanted to do was just a big outpouring of thanks. There's an awful lot of people putting themselves out there to keep the country and the economy going as best they could and as best we can as we go through this. The second bit really is around how effective and efficient larger organizations can become in times of extreme pressure. And so if you think about the pace of change in larger corporates, it's actually driven by the fear of failure and the fear of public shame, is my view. And KiwiBank certainly has its fair share of some of that failed change in the past, with a few well-publicized write-offs. And so a bunch of corporate governance is set around not making a mistake. So the thing that happens in a time of extreme pressure is not acting and being fearful of acting is the biggest mistake that you can make. And so our corporate machinery has gone from kind of super slow monthly and quarterly cycle times to daily decision-making forums, daily communications. At Exco level, if you were to run Scrum, you'd call it a daily stand-up. And so the Exco starting to actually, they're not calling it a daily stand-up, of course, but have these daily decision-making and prioritization cycles has massively accelerated the pace of change, predominantly with a tilt towards keeping our customers safe, keeping their money safe, keeping their businesses running, and keeping our staff safe. And that, again, is a pretty, for most banks, a pretty big pivot from you know, as a community, from profit to genuinely to customer. And so as an industry, actually, there's been one of the breakout rooms before said something along the lines of, I bet you're wishing for less competition or something like that at this time. Actually, some of that competition is really, really beneficial for keeping organizations like banks honest and tilted towards keeping countries, communities, people and business safe. So we and every other bank in the country have done what I think in terms of pace of change have been unable to do for a long time previously. And it's come together on things like, you will have seen today, you know, 2 weeks ago, $80 was the limit for pinless contact card payments. Today it's $200. That pace of change would typically have taken, I don't even want to say because it might be embarrassing, but much longer cycle times to get through. Like the other speakers, we 3.5 weeks ago were running, let's have 300 people work from home. I know our BCP plan is going to be, you know, it's good, and it says we can, our firewalls and our Citrix and our VPNs and that can all cope. You know, it turns out it couldn't. And so at KiwiBank, we've replaced our VPNs. We've shifted off, finally, Skype to Teams. I think we've released more in the last 3 weeks than we probably would have done in the prior 2 months, just because of that pace of change. And again, there's just huge thank yous. So as I was preparing for this, I was going to say I didn't send Ryan any briefing notes, and I kind of promised for a 5 minutes plus or minus 4 minutes, depending on how much thinking I've been able to put into this before. But I was lucky enough a couple of years ago to start an MBA, and I finished that in November. One of the first outside your comfort zone things that we did there was, you know, we had to arrange off our own bat some meeting with some business leaders that we thought were role models for how business should operate in the future. And my small cohort of people on the MBA reached out to Andrew Barnes, who's the owner of Perpetual Guardian, and who I'm sure you've all heard about the 4-day work week that they've managed to do. And what really drove that for Andrew, and what I've seen with us now, is that, you know, when you share in the rewards of the efficiency that you're able to generate with the staff of your company, then actually that becomes one of the prime motivators. So the efficiency pivoted towards customer, the efficiency pivoted towards safety, and actually people are now, we've seen a massive increase in productivity, even though they are working remotely, even though they're not able to see people face to face. People are, in large part actually, because they're balancing work and families, working, not me personally, unfortunately, but the same or fewer hours, and have significantly increased their productivity because of that improvement in decision making and focus. So we've seen an increase in productivity and an increase in effective communication that leads to decision, an increase in connection through this shared painful experience that we're going through, an increase in, I'm calling it constructive discourse. You might call it short-lived arguments and disagreements, as people's emotion is a lot closer to their heart and to their chest. An increase in vulnerability, both from leadership and from people, which is helping us massively form a deeper human connection, and actually an increase in good value that we are able to generate as a result of this. So I don't really have a conclusion, and I don't really have it's not true to my topic. That we've all got the emails of the best form of communication is face to face in the same room. Well, the next best form of communication is face to face via video conference with good conferencing behaviour, and there's a big ton of people in my workforce that actually will resist going back to the same type of working and the same type of conferencing that we used to have before we got into this. So I guess my conclusion is, again, a massive thanks to the people who are at the front line trying to help us through level 4 and back down through to level 0. They, in all of their roles, are helping make this easier for all of us. And this community, and to Ryan in general, is a great example of properly adapting from a physical work presence to a virtual work presence. So a final thank you to all of you for making this happen as well.
Thank you very much, and we'll get on to thanking you in a second. Some really interesting perspectives in there, and I think the big question we're all asking is how much will go back to the way it was, how much will change, and I'm sort of settling on it's almost like sitting on the fence with it would come down to personal opinion. So whether we go back into the office, whether we don't go back into the office. In fact, one person I was talking to has talked about the fact they have just cancelled their real estate lease for the company, and they will never go back. So it's interesting. So now I'm just going to bring in our final speaker before we go to breakout room. We'll have a bit of an all-round discussion. So Sarah Laurie, I'm learning the hard way, and we'll have to change that. About 7 o'clock, people start to disappear. Now there we go, Sarah, no gaps, Laurie. People start to disappear, and Sarah is going to share what I think is some of the most amazing information you're ever going to hear in your life. And I won't steal any thunder, but the context is, I do a networking course which I talk about the psychology and physiology of networking, and I learned it because I went through the unfortunate experiences of bullying and used to be really shy, and obviously aren't now. Ended up running major clubs around the world and was a VIP host even. And through all these experiences and working in sales, I started sort of reverse engineering between things that happened, things that whatever, and got into it, and have built up this training around the psychology and physiology of networking, how we as a human animal, we forget we're an animal, are affected by our biology. So I won't go into my course, but when I heard Sarah speak at another event, I was just sitting there the whole time going, this is the penny dropping. This is amazing. It goes so much deeper. There's 3 years of research. I won't steal her thunder, but she's got a lot of good stuff to share with us. So with that, I'll hand over to you, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks, Ryan. What an awesome evening too, can I just say. It's been so cool to be a part of and hear everybody's insight and questions and curiosity about this new landscape that we're navigating. And can I just say, Ryan, and all credit to you, but one thing I would never say when I'm being introduced is, here's Sarah, she's going to talk about breathing, because everyone goes, oh God. I'm pretty sure people go, oh, breathing, I don't think I need to hear this one. Because it can sound fluffy and lightweight, and I want to tell you, by no means are we going to cover anything fluffy and lightweight tonight. In fact, when I started my research, breathing would have been the farthest thing from my mind or on my radar that I thought was going to be what the answer was. So I'm going to try and keep this, you know, really short and punchy, but I must say it's a little bit prescriptive, because the purpose of me sharing with you tonight is to literally give you a series of facts so that you understand stress and anxiety differently than you do now, and can go away from the moment we shut down tonight and feel different and operate differently if you're experiencing stress or anxiety, or if anyone in your family or friends are. Because one of the fascinating things that I've learned through this is it is common to every single human what it is that we need to learn. And actually, when I say that, it was kind of understanding that insight that kind of led me to this piece of work. So I'll let you know what it is that I do. My entire focus and, in fact, purpose around me personally and my business is to help change the statistics around stress and anxiety, because they should not be what they are. We've got a $4.2 trillion wellness industry that is growing hugely, and at the same rate are our rates of stress and anxiety and depression. So it just shouldn't be that way. So we started to really look at our most high-risk industry sectors for stress, anxiety and depression, i.e. farming, construction, law, education. And as we kind of looked across those sectors, we were kind of a bit bamboozled by the fact that every single one of those sectors has a very vastly different set of criteria, I guess, that are causing them to be that stressed or that depressed or that unwell. And we sort of realized, man, we've got a big job to do when we look at all of this criteria and what's impacting people. And our question then became, what if we look at what's common? What if instead we look at what's common between the farmer, the lawyer, the teacher? And in fact, as we kind of got, you know, widened our lens, it was actually everybody. Stay-at-home dads, teachers, whatever it was, we were finding a pattern of overwhelm and stress that has become debilitating. So we asked this question, what's common? And our answer was we didn't know the answer, but we started to explore the fact maybe it's the human brain and the human body. And I like the point that Justin made, I think, about how we might be turning back to a circular economy and a sharing economy. And I refer to the fact that we need to start looking at a circular approach to health, where we actually come back to the human body for perhaps where our solutions are. So as we started exploring this idea around stress and anxiety in the human brain, we were led to a lab in Berkeley University, California. It was led by a neuroscientist. And I was amazed to find her and to find that this woman had a 100-person lab dedicated solely to understanding stress in the brain. I contacted her. She very generously replied. She invited me to go to the university. So I saved up all my pennies. Well, I didn't actually. I put it on a credit card because I was just a researcher. I wasn't really earning a lot of money. Jumped on a plane and went to Berkeley. And honestly, of all of the days and interviews and times I spent with her, one of the questions I asked her was, I think, the answer that many of us need to start thinking. Because we talked about the stress response in the brain and what actually happens and precisely when we are stressed. And I said to her, so if our stress response is not engaged, can we not experience stress? And she sort of looked at me like I hadn't been listening. And she goes, well, yeah. And I said, so we won't experience stress if our stress response isn't engaged, despite what might be happening in our life. And to me, that's where we require a systemic change in the way we think about our stress and anxiety. If we were to all on this call tonight think about where we're feeling pressure or what's causing it, we list all the stuff. We list the money, the mortgage, the kids, the time, the job, whatever it might be. None of us are saying, oh God, I wish I could just turn off my stress response. And if someone said that might be the answer, we wouldn't really take it seriously. But we decided to kind of really unpack that. And what I want to share with you really quickly and carefully tonight are 4 key facts that I want you to start attributing to a new way of thinking around stress, and then what you can do to address it. So as much as we're going to talk about breathing, Ryan, it's actually more that we're going to talk about stress in the brain. So we need to distinguish between your stress response being turned on, and I put my hand here because your stress response is in your amygdala at the back of the brain. And when that's on, we have a very precise response. It's precise like a heat response. If you touch something hot, your brain instantly engages that response so that your hand recoils and you don't feel the heat. Or a gag response. If you're choking, your body beautifully creates a gag response so that you don't choke. And your stress response operates in exactly the same precise way. When you are faced with a situation that is dangerous to your life, your stress response engages in an instant, and in that instant, it increases your heart rate and your heart rate variability. It increases your blood pressure and your blood volume. It precisely changes the kind of thoughts you have. Now, to me, that was a fascinating thing to realize, because when you're in danger for your life, you need to be hyper alert. You cannot focus on vast things at once, because in those moments you need to just laser in on the danger. So your brain does that for you so that you become really defensive, because you need to assess that situation for further risk. So all of those things sound really useful when you're in a situation of danger. They are essential, not just useful. But what's happened to us in our 21st century overloaded way of living is our stress response is on all the time. So we're kind of wired and pumped up by our blood pressure and our heart rate. We have this different lens in our thinking that's on everything. So we can't focus on a lot of things at once. And the other fascinating aspect of that is that as your stress response switches on in that instant way that I've described, your executive systems, which are here in your frontal lobe, switch off in that same instant. And your executive systems is where you problem solve. It's where you make decisions. It's where you recall and process information. And it's where you manage your emotions and make sure that you act appropriately with a filter on that we all know is the right way to I guess, behave in society. So if you can imagine that precious state of your brain is switched on, you're operating like that all the time. So what we need to do is find a way to turn it off. But I guess the one point I want to make around that is that your stress response is precise and instant. The second thing that we need to understand about stress and the brain is that it's physical. And I kind of want you to look at an object maybe in your office or wherever you are and picture that that's the brain, because when we start to recognize that your stress is physical, and what I mean by that physical shift in your brain where this has switched on and this has switched off, it gives us a different perspective, because I think it's fair to say we often imagine that stress and our anxiety feels like this gradual emotional onset over time of a number of different things building up. So we don't actually realize or recognize that our stress is because of this switch in the brain. We're busy trying to determine what's happened, why am I feeling like this, how can I ease those things. So we can recognize that stress and anxiety are physical and precise. It can help us join the dots by recognizing that the solution is physical and precise as well. The third point that I want to make, and this is a really essential one when we come to look at what the solution is that your brain seeks patterns in everything that you do. So everything that you think, everything that you say, ways you behave, are all a pattern that have developed that your brain has recognized. So what it does is it recognizes a pattern of what you do most, and then it automates it for you. And that's a really great asset that we have, where our brain is constantly assessing your environment for those patterns so it can automate it and then go on to do other things. The challenge that we're presented with is that physical thing that I've described about the switch in your brain and how our stress response is engaged, is that your brain then recognizes this pattern and it automates it. And if we try and think about how we can relate to that, it's a bit like constantly feeling rushed and under the pump all the time, and we get home and we just can't quite switch off. Or if we get on a holiday, perhaps, we all know that feeling of it taking a couple of days to wind down, because your brain is kind of going, okay, there's a pattern here. Even though I'm under a palm tree, I'm still going to have a feeling that there must be something I need to get done. And it takes a little while for us to unravel that. So looking back at that physical description I'm trying to give you, when you imagine that your stress response is switched on a lot of the time, most of the time, your brain's automated that for you. So it's really hard for it to just switch off and go back to normal when you're trying to find a bit of ease. And the fourth point I want to make, and this is not really like a physical, I guess, structural brain thing. It's more around the fact that it's very easy for us to start questioning our ability and our performance when we're under pressure. And I want to draw your attention back to those two descriptors that I gave you of when your stress response is on and you're anxious and defensive and you're wired, and your executive systems are switched off, and so you can't problem solve and you can't make clear decisions and you can't remember things as effectively, we start to go, oh God, maybe I can't do this anymore. I seem to be really losing my edge. And over time, this is where people's performance and productivity can break down. And so what I want, I guess, to reinforce is that what we need to look at is the fact that you're still excellent at what you do. Your brain is working just as it should. It's just that it's got the wrong switch on. And when we know how to switch off the stress response and re-engage this, we'll start to navigate our challenges way more effectively. Because the fact is, your stress response should only come on in moments of danger for your life. How many times should that be in a lifetime? 5 maybe? Should we really be in danger for our life many more times than that? Yet, like I said, 21st century living means it's on all the time. So when I learned all of this, even the neuroscientist that I work with, she did not know about breathing. The directive of her lab was to provide all of this information to pharmaceutical companies so that they can help and support us with medication, which we prescribe in massive loads right now around managing stress and anxiety and depression. And that's fantastic that she provides that resource. But what my point around it is that this is not common knowledge unless you go seeking to join the dots from all of these experts. So it took a little bit longer and a bit more of a reminder, I guess, about this body, the circular approach to health that we might need to look at that says, what have we got? What is the built-in mechanism to manage our stress response that can help us? And when the way we breathe was presented as the solution, I was like, what? No. Like, I love to meditate if I could, but I can't because I'm no good at meditation. And I know some people really love yoga and Tai Chi and that sort of thing. And that's what I thought they were talking about. But what we came to recognize was the really specific two functions of our breath and how they are a direct and causal link to stress and anxiety. So I want to explain them really quickly, because this is actually the simple bit. When you understand that your stress and your anxiety is because of this, the switching it off is actually much more simple. So we've got two kinds of breathing: a chest breath, which is called a thoracic breath, and a diaphragmatic breath, which is basically a belly breath. And it's not a belly breath or a fancy exercise that you've got to go and sit cross-legged or leave the room for. Right now, as you're listening to me, simply fill your lungs. And what we don't often realize is that your lungs go down as far as behind your belly. So really, while you're sitting here, you should take a breath that goes down that far. And nice sitting up there, Ryan. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It's just filling your lungs. Now, the diaphragmatic breath, going back to that switch that I talked about, where you switch on your stress response and you switch off your executive systems, your breath works the same. When you breathe into your tummy, and if you take a breath now, you almost feel the edge coming off a little bit. That is literally an instruction to your brain that all is well. And when all is well, all of your biological systems function as they should. And it's called rest and digest in colloquial terms. It means all is okay. Please let my human body do its job. Respiration, digestion, immunity, reproduction, all of those things. So when you breathe like this, everything works well. When you breathe into your chest, and over 60% of us breathe into our chest or breath hold. Some of you might check in on your breathing and realize you're sort of holding your breath a little bit, or shallow breathing. That is an instruction to your brain that there is danger. And I'll give you an example that you might relate to more. If you were to step out onto a road and at the last minute see a car coming when you'd stepped into the road, you will realize that you take a big involuntary breath. You'll take a big sharp breath in as you see that car or that truck bearing down on you. And it is that instruction, that breath that switches on your stress response, pumps your muscles, does all of those things and puts you in the pressure state. So take away the dangerous situation and sit at your desk breathing like that all the time, and you've put yourself in a pressure state continually. So the challenge, again, that we face is that, let's say we love the science and we think it's really fascinating and it's just so easy just to breathe properly, I'll just do that. You won't, because your breathing is part of your autonomic nervous system, which means you're not supposed to think about it. It's like your heartbeat. It just happens. So you might start thinking, now I'm going to do some good breathing, and I bet you by the count of 3 you've forgotten or you've got distracted. So one of the things we have to do is firstly get comfortable with knowing what it feels like to fill your lungs. And I mean that seriously, because I've been in rooms of people where I describe this and people go, oh, I actually feel a little bit sick, or I feel a little bit panicked even trying to take that breath, because they're so used to their body breathing shallow, they actually can't breathe properly into their tummy. So you have to get comfortable practicing, knowing what that feels like. And then really, really simply, you need to commit to several times a day. And my recommendation is every 30 to 60 minutes, literally just taking a breath into your tummy. And the cool thing about this is that within 2 to 3 days, you feel different. Within 2 to 3 days, there's a shift in perspective around what the pressure is. And I say this with huge regard, because please remember, I'm doing this work to some of our most stressed people. So for me to go to the farming sector and go, oh, just breathe, that can be met with a bit of cynicism. So I'm not saying it makes your problems go away, but what I am saying is your problems should never be something that disrupt your health, your life, or have you choose to end it. And unfortunately, those are the statistics that we're dealing with. And I am quite robust in saying that if we become a global community of people in the first world, and it's not a third world problem, by the way, they've got some far greater problems than us in third world, and they aren't jumping off bridges. If we can become a global community of people that breathe like humans are designed to, we will categorically see a shift in the statistics around stress and anxiety. And that's what I'm looking to achieve, because a human who breathes properly thinks differently, they problem solve differently, and they decision make differently. And everything about your health that is designed to work well is working at optimum performance. And I think someone wrote here earlier, who was it? It was Ryan, I think, about simplicity and effectiveness. And I like to call it simplicity and brilliance. Breathing is so damn simple, but what it does is it lets the brilliance of your human body do what it needs to do. And we will change as a nation on how we experience stress and anxiety if we come back to breathing like we're designed to while we work. And I say that with a bit of emphasis, because this is not yoga. This is not a class. This is not sitting for a period of time. It is just while you do your shit, breathe like you're supposed to, and we'll start to see a change. So I'm sorry if I went over. I tried to get as much as I could into those few minutes, Ryan. And I hope that landed somewhere for you that drives a bit of a new thinking.
That was amazing. We did go a little bit over time, but I was breathing,
Sorry.
so I wasn't stressing.
We did too. Oh my God, did I go that far over?
Just a little.
No,
Okay. You started at 7:30. That's all right.
I didn't.
That's all right.
Oh.
I was in two minds whether to. So I'm just going to go to gallery view and unmute everybody. So if you've got noise in the background, mute yourself, please. But I think that the reason I'm getting someone to, here we go. The reason I left Sarah going uninterrupted is it's so important. Like, I heard her speak, and that's why I got her on. And I think it's so important. It's mind-blowing. My mother is a CIO in a particular part of the health industry that monitors all the drugs, and I'm not allowed to repeat things that I mentioned, but general comment was around the amount of antidepressants and antipsychotics that are being prescribed, including some of the most serious antipsychotics for adults being prescribed to infant children. And think about what's being passed on during pregnancy and whatnot, and what effect it's having on the next generation, because it all gets passed down in our DNA. But during COVID-19, we're able to connect, but there might be moments where you have a panic attack. Like, talking to a friend who's just gone through it. I've been through it personally myself. I've been through quite a few things before COVID-19, so I'm actually finding COVID-19, but I'm now helping a whole lot of friends who are going through their first panic attacks, their first feeling that there's no end to this, we're all going to die, when it's not. So that's enough from me. We're not going to wrap up yet, and I think we won't go into a breakout room, but I just wanted to invite, if anyone had, before we do that, a round of applause and a big deep breath for Sarah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Woohoo! Thank you.
So,
can I just say one other thing? I mean, I've only had 25 minutes or whatever it was. I forgot to say this statistic, 100%, and we very rarely get a 100% statistic in science. 100% of people experiencing anxiety breathe incorrectly. That's a massive statistic. So if you want to change how you're feeling in terms of stress and anxiety, freaking breathe correctly. You won't experience it. I promise you, it will change your life.
Cool. So before we launch into an open floor, I just want to take the opportunity to thank all of our speakers. Some of them, I'm not sure that they're here, and also to, of course, thank our sponsors, Chandan Ori and Ryan Ingram, Chandan from Duco Consultancy and Ryan from Magnetism. Thank you so much for enabling AFQY and enabling us to hear these messages, insights, and build this community. So I just want to give a round of applause from everybody to our two sponsors. Thank you very much.
Woohoo!
Yours. And also thank you to everyone for staying on till 8 o'clock. So I hope you take the insights, messages, and share them, especially the breathing. I think it's going to have a huge impact. But with that, I'd like to, if we use we have a little reaction button down the bottom. So if you have something that you think is worth sharing, I'd like you to stick your thumb up. If you see my thumb is up.
Oh.
So Hassan, you're the first thumb I see. Over to you.
Yeah. How are you, man? Good.
Oh.
Good.
Yes.
So has everyone found the thumb, or has no one?
What do we do? Push it.
Yep. So there we are.
Yeah. Different interactions here.
So what I was saying is, if you'd like to share something, give me the thumbs up. I can then get you on screen.
Oh.
Okay, I'm going to go with B. So there we go. Spotlight video. You're up, B.
Well, this was again fantastic. You know, Ryan, like the way you do these, it just really speaks to me. And I love these real conversations and the depth to the sharings and the way people come together. And I'm a real life person. I just love, you know, meeting people in real life. And I miss that really a lot now. But, you know, we have these tools. They're cool substitutes. And they're perfect for these situations. And yeah, keep doing the great work.
Thank you. Do we have any other thumbs up there, other than B from Nelson, who's going to be a brave soul? Vishal, you got where's your camera? You there, Vishal?
Can you still hear me, or did you hear me?
No, sorry, I switched. Can you see me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, cool. Hey, thanks, Ryan. It was my first professional networking event after like 18 months, probably. It was great being here. I just realized you miss so much and so many different perspectives when you're not attending this thing. So look forward to joining a few more. But yeah, it was great to listen to everyone and really good insights. Thank you.
Cheers, mate. Alrighty. So I'm going to So I'm going to get our two sponsors on before we close out, as no one seems to be jumping forward. But I would very much like Chandon to share his a final few words with everybody. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Ryan, and for putting such a wonderful event. It was my first event as well, and I must say I've met some really cool people, made some new friends and connections, and I must thank you and also and anyone behind that we don't see, behind the face of Ryan that we don't see, who puts all of these events together. So a big thanks to you and the team, and thanks to everyone who patiently waited for the last couple of hours for a very, very enjoyable evening. I really appreciate it. Hey, thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I can see Ryan Ingram. I was going to see if we got Guyan on, but he might be flying his plane or looking after his 2- and 3-year-old.
He shouldn't be flying his plane. I'm going to have to dub him in.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I can say something. I'm not sure if Guy's still there, but yeah, again, I'll just follow on from Shandon and just say thanks to everyone for coming, and thanks to Ryan for putting it on, and yeah, and especially, you know, that last Sarah, that last speaker was amazing, and really kind of practical advice, I think. So yeah, I had a great time and good meeting everyone, and yeah, this is my first one, so first one of many. Hopefully everyone has a great weekend.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Well, if you'd like to head off to perhaps dinner that was meant to be half an hour ago, more than welcome. If you want to sit on and chat, you're more than welcome. But it'd be great to hear someone else's voice other than my own. because this is a community. So I'd like you to jump in there and share.
I'd just like to know how I'm going to get my virtual tequilas right.
What was that?
My virtual tequila. This was what's going on.
Oh yes, tequilas. Bottle of tequila. How do I get a bottle of tequila to Nisha?
Right.
Do we have anyone who...
Wait for a couple of weeks' time.
Okay.
It's a real bottle of tequila. Oh, where did it go?
So Nisha is a tequila connoisseur. We were having a couple of drinks at the end of the last AFQY in person, and made a joke about tequila, and I just disappeared and went back and got some. And of course, not a connoisseur, I got the rubbish. So she made a joke. It was a joke. So I went and got some better stuff, and yeah, it's quite interesting because we swilled it in a wine glass, almost like you drink brandy. It's quite different to shooting it. So yeah, thank you very much for the lesson. Look forward to lesson 2.
Perfect.
It's got to be Patron or better, mate. It's got to be Patron.
Oh.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, team. So
Thank you.
everybody. What about Stuart and Kerry? Because I think Kerry, we met at the event that Sarah spoke at. See you later, people. Thank you very much.
See you later. Bye. Thank you. Have a nice evening and
Have a lovely
enjoy your
Easter.
weekend. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye. Bye, Ryan.
Bye. See you, Sarah. Thank you so much.
Bye, Ryan. Bye. See you.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
I'm trying to keep up with the goodbyes.
We did, Ryan. We did. Was it at the M2 event, Ryan?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
And I was so excited to see Sarah on the little photos there tonight. I was like, oh yeah. And then when I heard her speaking, I was like, Stu, you gotta listen. You gotta listen. She's great. I swear she's from the whole event. It's only Sarah was so clear with me. Her message was so huge.
Yeah.
And yeah, left a massive impression on me. So I was so keen, and I was so pleased you had her speaking tonight. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, she's about to launch. It was meant to be a little bit later in the year, but we're trying to help get it launched a little bit sooner because it's probably quite important right now.
Right.
Don't need any. Don't need to labour that point. But yeah, so Kiwi Bank, just so happened that Mike Clemworth, Kiwi Bank are one of the first partners on board, and looking for a couple more, obviously. So having discussions with the to be expecteds, and hopefully that all comes to fruition, and the message gets out into the world very soon. So yeah, it'd be cool. Like I was just blown away. Like when I do the networking course that I do, I talk about the fact that we're all animals, and you know, I say you all probably get given you'll get given the advice to be yourself, and then you go networking and you're not yourself, and you get frustrated and don't understand why. And the reason that is that it's a mixture of your limbic system, which is the core of it, and your fight, flight, or freeze response, and all this stuff happens in your subconscious. You're not actually aware of it. It doesn't go through your self-talk in your little mind. So you know, you go along to a networking event and you hate networking. You do it because you have to. And the last time was really shit, and you got stuck talking to an asshole. So you've already got the mindset, and you're that close to it. It doesn't take much to tip you over the edge, and you'll have a cortisol dump, and 6 to 8 points of IQ will be lost. Yep. And that will upset you, B, all those things that Sarah talked about, reduce your capability to think, etc. But most importantly, remove your ability to remember. You won't even remember your name sometimes, which sounds quite crazy, but can happen. But of course, what happens is you get introduced to people and you go, hi, this is Kerry, hi, this is Stuart, hi, this is Nick, hi, this is Sophia, hi, this is Craig. And then Kerry, who was first to be introduced to you, goes, hey, Ryan, fantastic to meet you. And you're left standing there going, I can't think of that lady's name, but there's an expectation that because she used mine, I'm going to be able to use hers. Oh, no, I'm panicking. And that's when you have the cortisol dump, and that's half an hour, well, at least half an hour. But yes, if you go and use your Superman pose, your breathing, you can reverse it. But so there's a whole bunch of stuff all related to networking. And including remembering names. So when you smile, that releases, can't think right now. It's either dopamine or serotonin. That's what drives the emotion, because emotion makes you remember. So negative things remember 6 times more, like the burning your hand. That's hot. Or that's where the saber-toothed tiger lives. I won't walk past that bush. So you've got to generate a positive emotion. So when people say to me at AFQY, "Oh my God, I don't remember names. Is it this? Is it that?" It's like, no, it's your eyes only see a 50-cent coin of detail. So they benchmark for patterns that Sarah talked about. This person looks like this person. The bit that's different, that's the unique identifier that attaches to the name with the smile, with the emotion, and boom, that's who you are. Don't have to have anything to it. So there's quite a train, and where it began before that in terms of how you forget names and how to not do that. But I read a research paper that talked about the reason we forget names is that we're an animal, and as we go through puberty, our primary function is to mate. So we don't give a about names. All we're working out is, do my peacock feathers look all right? Do I look tough enough? Does my competition, Craig and Nick, could I take him out? So what happens is that goes from being it's generated by an instinctive or autonomous behavior to want to mate, but because you forget names as you go through the teenage years, before you get to work, you have become a programmed experience, and the self-fulfilling prophecy kicks in. I'm really shit at remembering names. So I used to be really shit at remembering names, but when I read the point that you could think I want to mate with you because I've forgotten your name, I was like, I can't remember another name, and that was a challenge to myself. So I practice, and it's a skill, just like spiral passing a rugby ball. If you want to be Aaron Smith, you don't just stroll onto the All Blacks game for the first time you ever played rugby and do it. You have to practice it, and you have to learn all the skills and practice it. So the last time I did a course, I teach the full how you forget, why you forget, all the different parts to it, and how to combat it and how to remember, and the 3 things. Then we do a couple of other things, and then I get 10 people up, and one person has to meet them all. The person has to meet them all at that point in time without taught. Then they sit down and do things for about half an hour. Then they've got to get up and introduce them all. So the last group had 9 out of 10 using the process. So it's simply the same thing with Sarah, like I talked about. Once you're aware, you're like, oh, now I've got it. I won't do it. I won't let it happen, because I use my prefrontal cortex, the logic, to override the and that's me. I'll shut up.
It's very similar in the photo shoot, when people come to a photo shoot and they just self-sabotage it. They arrive and the first thing they say is, "Oh, I'm crap at taking photos. I'm really not photogenic. You've got your work cut out for you here. I didn't sleep last night. I haven't done this." And like you've got to work very quickly to take that problem away from them and create a positive situation very quickly. It's like, let that be my problem. Let me take that problem away from you. And then, you've got to kind of speed date them very quickly to get them, to get them into a comfortable position, talking about their kids, talking about their family, and, are their work, because normally my clients have been in back-to-back meetings all morning dealing with crazy stuff, batshit crazy stuff, that they deal with. And they go, "Right, what do you want from me?" And you're like, "Smile." You just can't respond that way, and you've just got to. It's very similar. You've got to really when I first ask somebody to, when they're in front of the camera, the first thing I say to them is just say hi, hi. Your eyes will engage. You'll smile subconsciously. You're meeting somebody for the first time, and everything that's happened before that event disperses. It goes. And then I keep talking, and then they're not back in their head again. But and I always stop a couple of minutes into the shoot and say, "Let's breathe. Let's just breathe. Close your eyes, even. Just close your eyes, even." Yep. And then when you come out of that breath and you open your eyes, oh, it's such a lovely feeling, and you get such a beautiful, natural facial, expression. Lovely shot. It's great.
that's very cool, and it's amazing. Like you're talking about the speed dating. So when I do the naming thing and get the person up, quite often they'll go, oh, I think I'll only get 3. I reckon I'll only get 3, and I'll go, no. So I didn't do this the first time, and they got 3, and then I realised what I let happen. They told themselves what result they'll get. So the next time it happened, and this is where the 9 out of 10 came from, the guy went, oh, I think I'll only get 3. And I'd already talked about this as part of it, is you've got to have self-belief, you've got to have, tell yourself what you will achieve. So I said, no, you stop there, and you tell everybody verbally out loud, I'm going to get all 10 in the present tense, and what you're going to achieve. I will remember all 10 names. I know all 10 names. I'm going to introduce all 10 names. I said, you have to do that, or else you may as well sit down. We know you're going to get 3. He says, you got to fully believe and get into it. And he's like, okay, I'm ready. I said, no, you've got to say it. So he went through and said it, and I said, say it to us, say it again. And then he went through and went, boom, 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 oh, boom, boom, boom. there was lots on the last one, so it's quite interesting to see, and it's the power, the power of the brain. Like you can just turn on an ability like crazy. But hey, I was going to say, my wife was cooking dinner and was speaking to me at 7:30. She has cooked a lovely, amazing, hearty dinner. I better go and enjoy that, and let you enjoy your evenings as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ryan. That was lovely. Great night. Thank you.
Yes.
See you next. See you, Craig, Sophia.
You guys.
Bye.